Hey BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. I am your host Peg, and I am in a new location today. We are sitting in front of my beautiful new bookcases in the master bedroom. Don't mind the old shelves behind me. They're going to be going soon so that we can have a whole white theme throughout this bedroom. So thanks for dropping that. Daisy is up on the bed next to me, and she's dropping her balls onto my drinks down here. Balls under the bed now, honey. Anyway, BookTube, why am I here? Well, I want to come to you with a Hamilton book haul that I hadn't shown you yet. I got this order a while ago, and now that I have my bookcases up, I'm ready to shelve. So let me show you some of the books I got from Hamilton. This is the penultimate book haul because I have one more massive Hamilton book haul to show you. So I'm just going to try to space that out a little bit. Maybe I'll film that one next week. You're coming down the stairs? Okay. Come on, go, Daisy! Anyway, sorry for the interruptions. This is what happens in a house full of animals. Okay, so I got, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I got almost 20 books in this book haul, and it's a nice mixture of history. There's some fiction, there's some mystery in here. So, you know I love HamiltonBook.com. It's just one of my favorite bargain bookstores to shop online. And I know a lot of you enjoy them as well and head off and do a lot of your own hauling. Sometimes after you see these videos, because you know you might see something here that you haven't seen before. So let's start off with a little paperback I picked up by an author that he recently just had a new book come out on. I think it's called Strategy. Is it Strategy or something else? But it's Lawrence Freedman. And make sure we're still recording here. This is called The Future of War, A History by Lawrence Freedman. I'll get my handy dandy sheet. I can tell you how much I paid for it. Future of War. This is going to be a long video, I'm thinking. The Future of War. There's a lot of books on here. Oh, this might have been from the last one, too. I've ordered a lot, let's just say. Okay, so in The Future of War, A History, Lawrence Freedman, a world-renowned military thinker, tells the history of how we envision tomorrow's war, from H.G. Wells to Star Wars, from Helmuth von Moltke to H.R. McMaster, from Sedan to Sudan. Freedman demonstrates the continuing pull of a highly idealized notion of war, confined, brief, and decisive. Hence the stubborn persistence of the idea of a successful knockout blow, whether through a dashing land offensive, nuclear first strike, or cyber attack. Yet in practice, wars often turn into long, grueling conflicts. Friedman also shows how frequently the futurists almost entirely overlooked civil wars until the West began to intervene in them during the 1990s. So this is an account of a century and a half of warfare. And it looks like he confronts both hawks and doves alike on this. So I'm looking forward to reading The Future of War by Lawrence Freedman. This came out in 2019. Yeah, it's put out by Public Affairs Books. Now this is a juicy one. I actually paid extra for this one. I couldn't find it anywhere else for any cheaper, but it's a $15 book, which for a Hamilton book is pretty steep. But I couldn't resist it. It's from Yale University Press. It's a naked hardcover. It's called Late Stalinism, The Aesthetics of Politics. Look at this book, huh? Beautiful. It says here, in this nuanced historical analysis of late Stalinism organized chronologically around the main events of the period, beginning with victory in May 1945 and concluding with the death of Stalin in March 1953, Evgeny Dobrenko analyzes key cultural texts to trace the emergence of an imperial Soviet consciousness that, he argues, still defines the political and cultural profile of modern Russia. I think there's something to that. Russia's trying to regain its place on the world stage. It definitely is, you know, invading other countries. It's got all the markers of imperialism going on there. So, beautiful book. Great bibliography. We got a lot of stuff in here from further reading. We got a little bit of illustrations in the center. But this is going to be definitely an academic work, but I was really excited to see this on Hamilton Book of all places. I mean, this is that heady, meaty stuff that when I stumble across, I'm like, I've got to get it. Of course, you know me, I read anything about Russia, Soviet Union, so this is right up my alley. Okay. Oh, and this was a big book. There's a big buzz around it probably a year ago or so, but you know, it came to Hamilton Book, and I like biographies, and I enjoyed The Red Badge of Courage, so I'm very interested to read Burning Boy: The Life and Works of Stephen Crane by Paul Auster. So got a nice hardcover, brand new. It's from Holt Publishing, and it was so cheap on Hamilton Book. They might still have some copies left if you're interested. Check them out. As always, I'll leave the link below. So we've got a biography on Stephen Crane, who wrote The Red Badge of Courage. Celebrated novelist Paul Auster delves deeply into the many forms of that greatness as he tells the story of Crane's tumultuous and dramatic life. A controversial article written at 20 that disrupted the course of the 1892 presidential campaign, crushing poverty as a newcomer to Manhattan during the worst economic depression in the country's history, international fame at 25, a public battle with New York Police Department over the false arrest of a prostitute that effectively exiled him from the city in 1896, a shipwreck off the coast of Florida that led to his near drowning in 1897. It goes on and on. I guess Stephen Crane has lived a very full life, or he did. Wow. So, I'm very excited to have the biography, Paul Auster's Burning Boy. And I'm even more excited to get these on my shelves. Alright, what else do we have here? Got some more intellectual history kind of stuff. Intellectual, cultural perspectives. And this one is called Religion in the University by Nicholas Wolsterstorff. Religion in the University. It's a slim little volume put out by Yale, another Yale book. It says here, what is religion's place within the academy today? Are the perspectives of religious believers acceptable in an academic setting? Not if you're a Christian. I can tell you that much. You are persona non grata. In this lucid and penetrating essay, Nicholas Wolsterstorff ranges from Max Weber and John Locke to Ludwig Wittgenstein and Charles Taylor to argue that religious orientations and voices do have a home in the modern university, and he offers a sketch of what that home should be like. It's interesting. Alright, so it's still like a little treatise, and about 140-50 pages, but I was intrigued, and it was marked down, and I love university presses, and so I'm going to pick it up. So I got that. Oh, something along the same lines a little bit. Another Yale book. This one's in paperback. This is called Liberty in the Things of God, The Christian Origins of Religious Freedom by Robert Louis Wilkin. So Yale was had some of their religious books going, making it off to the bargain outlets now, so that's fantastic. Says here, chronicling the history of the struggle for religious freedom from the early Christian movement through the 17th century. Robert Louis Wilkin shows that the origins of religious freedom and liberty of conscience are religious, not political in origin. So I've heard that claim made before, and I've read different things on it. But it was really really marked down, and it doesn't hurt to refresh the memory banks on that. So I've got Liberty in the Things of God. Another excellent Yale University pickup. Just looking to see if I have any other. I do have a couple more Yale books. What do you know? Whoa! So this is a beautiful book. This is called Hernando Colon's New World of Books, Toward a Cartography of Knowledge by Jose Maria Perez Fernandez and Edward Wilson Lee. Hernando Colon's New World of Books. Isn't that great? Another Yale copy here. Yale print. All right, this engaging book offers the first comprehensive account of the extraordinary projects of Hernando Colón, son of Christopher Columbus, which culminated in the creation of the greatest library of the Renaissance, with ambitions to be universal, that is, to bring together copies of every book on every subject and in every language. Perez, Fernandez, and Wilson Lee situate Hernando's projects within the rapidly changing landscape of early modern knowledge, providing a concise history of the collection of information and the origins of public libraries, examining the challenges he faced and the solutions he devised. The two authors combine meticulous research with deep and original thought, shedding light on the history of libraries and the organization of knowledge. The result is an essential reference text for scholars of the early modern period and for anyone interested in the expansion and dissemination of information and knowledge. So it just intrigued me, being Christopher Columbus' son, and I had heard there was another book about him. Is it a catalog of shipwreck books or something? I think that's about him as well. But this just sounded really intriguing and really marked down. So picked it up. Thank you, Yale University. All right, now we're moving over to Princeton. And this book was marked down on Hamilton books, and this is called Niccolo Machiavelli, An Intellectual Biography by Corrado Vivanti. And I love intellectual biographies. I just love how they really just zoom in on the essential stuff that really kind of just lights up my brain. I've got a few books on Machiavelli, but I don't have this one. I really like this cover. It's very cool. So, let's see. What does Corrado Vivanti have to say? This is a colorful, comprehensive, and authoritative introduction to the life and work of the author of The Prince, Florentine statesman, writer, and political philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli. Corrado Vivanti, who is one of the world's leading Machiavelli, so he's obviously not with us anymore, was one of the world's leading Machiavelli scholars, provides an unparalleled intellectual biography that demonstrates the close connections between Machiavelli's thought and his changing fortunes during the tumultuous Florentine Republic and his subsequent exile. So this book covers not only Machiavelli's most famous works, The Prince, The Discourses, The Florentine Histories, and The Art of War, but also his letters, poetry, and comic dramas. While setting Machiavelli's life against a backdrop of war, crisis, and diplomatic intrigue, the book also paints a vivid human portrait of the man. There's more, but I'll keep it to that, because I've got a lot of books to move through here. Small little intellectual biography on Machiavelli. How can you go wrong? All right. Yes, I was intrigued by this book, just because it just takes a stand, and it's like, we're not ashamed to say that history will prove us right. Inside the Warren Commission report on the assassination of John F. Kennedy, right? By Howard P. Willans. This is put up by Overlook Press. But yeah, they're basically saying we got it right, people. There was no conspiracy. Let's see. Okay, so it says here, obviously we know he was assassinated November 22nd, 1963. The Presidential Commission tasked with finding the truth, headed by then Chief Justice Earl Warren, published its findings the following year. Oswald had acted alone, but the report did little to quell conspiracy theorists. Many seized on what they saw as inconsistencies in the report and branded the whole investigation an elaborate cover-up. Warren himself calmly dismissed the criticism, assuring his fellow commission members that, quote, history will prove that we are right, end quote. Now in this eye-opening new account of the commission and its findings, Willans sets out to prove that Warren's advice was prescient. Willans, one of the few living staff members of the Warren Commission, supervised the investigation from the very beginning and has waited until now to silence the critics and well-intentioned armchair detectives. Drawn from Willans' own journals and extensive notes on the investigation, which have never before been published, History Will Prove Us Right tells the true and complete story, perhaps for the first time, of every aspect of the investigation into one of the century's most harrowing events from a uniquely first-person perspective. And that's fantastic. There's our author. So this book came out. You'll never silence all the critics. They'll always find something. But this came out in 2013, so a 10-year-old book. But I'm intrigued. I wanted to get his side of it. And I do think they were right. So there you go. Oh, another controversy with conspiracy theories everywhere. I wanted to watch this, plus I was watching The Irishman, the movie, the Scorsese movies the other day, for the second or third time now, on Netflix, and kind of wanted to read about Hoffa again. So this is In Hoffa's Shadow, A Stepfather, A Disappearance in Detroit, and My Search for the Truth, by Jack Goldsmith. And I've seen this book around everywhere, and I've hesitated to pick it up. I don't know why, but Farrar, Straus, and Giroux put it out. I'm just intrigued. So this is by his stepson. So in July 30th, 1975, Jimmy Hoffa, disappeared from a restaurant I've been to just outside Detroit. I used to go there, the Red Fox. Okay. It says here, now in this, I'm just trying to condense down, I want to read the whole thing. Now in this groundbreaking book, the distinguished legal thinker Jack Goldsmith illuminates Hoffa's disappearance and influence from a vital and unexpected new perspective. As a boy, Goldsmith adored his stepfather, Chucky O'Brien, who was known to the world as Jimmy Hoffa's right-hand man of many years. Oh. Oh, I see. So he wasn't the stepson of Jimmy Hoffa. He was the stepson of Hoffa's right-hand man. Okay. It's important that I read that. Following Hoffa's disappearance, the FBI publicly accused O'Brien of picking up Hoffa at the Macus Red Fox and driving him to his death on behalf of the mob. Stop. As Goldsmith grew older and pursued a career in law and government, he began to doubt and to distance himself from the man he once revered. Let's see. It was only years later, when Goldsmith was serving as an assistant attorney general in the George W. Bush administration and investigating the government's misuse of surveillance powers, that he began to reconsider O'Brien and his legacy. So that's fascinating. I do remember the guy in the movie who played O'Brien. Well, was that the Irishman? No, get a stepson. I gotta look back at that, but anyway. In Hoffa's Shadow, it just sounded intriguing. I kind of like to revisit these type of mysteries and stuff. So, in Hoffa's Shadow, yes, and this book I've been meaning to get forever. While everyone else on BookTube has already gotten it and read it, it took me a while to get to it. But it was like $6.95, I think, maybe on Hamilton Book. Brand spanking new hardcover, no remainder marks, just pristine for $7, $6 or $7. I got Square Haunting, finally. 5 Writers in London Between the Wars by Francesca Wade. Been so waiting to get this. I grew up reading these ladies, reading about their lives, the Bloomsbury set. HD, Virginia Woolf. Catherine Mansfield. I know she was kind of on the outsides. Dorothy Sayers. Okay. Hi, Roxy. She's right behind the camera. If my room wasn't so dirty. Do you want to say hi? My room's not dirty. Everything's been made. Just vacuumed. I've been cleaning all morning. Thought I'd make a book haul video so I can continue to put things away where they need to be. So, in the early 20th century, Mecklenburgh Square, a hidden architectural gem in the heart of London, was a radical address. On the outskirts of Bloomsbury, known for the eponymous group who lived in squares, painted in circles and loved in triangles, the square was home to students, struggling artists, and revolutionaries. In the pivotal era between the two world wars, the lives of 5 remarkable women intertwined at this one address. Modernist poet H.D., detective novelist Dorothy L. Sayers, classicist Jane Harrison, economic historian Eileen Power, and author and publisher Virginia Woolf. In an era when women's freedoms were fast expanding, they each sought a space where they could live, love, and above all, work independently. So it's all about them, and I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, yeah, this is cool stuff. An important book. Square Hunting, so finally get my hands on that. I'm going to save some of the fiction stuff for last. So we'll move these over. Got a stack here I'm working through. Alright, let's get here. Another book I've been wanting for a while. I've been seeing on BookTube, and I know it's like probably 2 years after the fact, or has it only been a year since this came out? Well, actually 3. 3 years. God, time flies. But I've been meaning to get this, and again, brand new book, no remainder marks. The Last American, The Brilliant Life and Improbable Education of Henry Adams by David S. Brown. So, I'm really glad to get this. I've been wanting it. Let's see, I'll just kind of abbreviate this. David Brown sheds light on the brilliant yet under-celebrated life of this major American intellectual. Henry Adams not only lived through the Civil War and the explosive industrial growth that followed, but he attended Abraham Lincoln's inaugural ball, bowed before Queen Victoria, and counted among his friends and neighbors such powerful figures as Secretary of State John Hay, Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, and President Theodore Roosevelt. His observations of these men and their policies in his private letters provide a penetrating assessment of Gilded Age America on the cusp of the modern era. So there's just a little snippet for that. Of that. I love all the photos on the inside here. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. You probably already have it. Maybe you've already read it. Last American Aristocrat. I'm happy to finally get this. So this book, nice big chunkster, heavy book. This is another Princeton University title. But this is in depth. Woo, and I got it for real cheap. It's like 750 odd pages long, and that's including notes, index, and everything else, bibliography. But this will go with my economics shelf, on my economic shelf, American history, but just how, you know, America grew so much in the since the Civil War. And this is called The Rise and Fall of American Growth, the U.S. Standard of Living Since the Civil War. Look at this beautiful cover, though. Yeah, but look, that's a big book, huh? This big, hard Princeton book there. Again, no remainder marks. It is a pristine, it's in pristine condition. Is this the other one? I really wanted to see if, no, this is an old sheet. Okay, so we'll just read real quickly. In the century after the Civil War, an economic revolution improved the American standard of living in ways previously unimaginable. Electric lighting, indoor plumbing, home appliances, motor vehicles, air travel, air conditioning, and television transformed households and workplaces. With medical advances, life expectancy grew from 45 to 72 years between 1870 and 1970. Weaving together a vivid narrative, historical anecdotes, and economic analysis, The Rise and Fall of American Growth provides an in-depth account of this momentous era. But has the era of unprecedented growth come to an end? Gordon challenges the view that economic growth... Did I say it was by Robert J. Gordon? Okay, sorry. Gordon challenges the view that economic growth can or will continue unabated, and he demonstrates that the life-altering scale of innovations between 1870 and 1970 can't be repeated. He contends that the nation's productivity growth, which is already slowed to a crawl, will be further held back by the vexing headwinds of rising inequality, stagnating education, an aging population, and the rising debt of college students and the federal government. It's great news. Gordon warns that the younger generation may be the first in American history that fails to exceed their parents' standard of living, and that rather than depend on the great advances of the past, we must find new solutions to overcome the challenges facing us. So that's a pretty important argument and pretty important book. I'm looking forward to having my my gray matter tickled by this stuff. Not tickled, but it's going to wrinkle my brain, I'm sure. So, The Rise and Fall of American Growth. So that's like one of the biggest books I got on this last haul. All right. This is, I don't know, this kind of popped out at me and sounded interesting, so I thought I'd pick it up. Again, like $5. This is The Great Shift, Encountering God in Biblical Times by James L. Kugel. Okay, make sure you get a good view of that. It says, a world-renowned scholar uses the Bible's own words to understand a fateful change that occurred during the biblical era, one that would ultimately determine the whole way in which Jews and Christians would encounter God ever since. A great mystery lies at the heart of the Bible. Early on, people seem to live in a world entirely foreign to our own. God appears to Abraham and Sarah, Jacob and others. He buttonholes Moses and Isaiah and Jeremiah and tells them what to say. Then comes the Great Shift, and Israelites stop seeing God or hearing his voice. Instead, later Israelites are in search of God, reaching out to a distant, omniscient deity in prayers as people have done ever since. What brought about this change? The answers come from the Bible and other ancient texts, archaeology and anthropology, and recent advances in neuroscience. Ultimately, the book leads readers to the most basic matter of all, the nature of humanity's encounter with God from earliest times to our own day. Interesting. The Great Shift is a landmark book, the culmination of a scholar's lifelong reckoning with the foundational text of Judaism and Christianity. James Kugel, whose religious conviction shines through his scientific exploration of the Bible and the ancient world, has written a masterwork for believers and non-believers alike, a profound meditation on the apprehension of God then and now. So, that sounded really kind of titillating. Because there is that silence, that great shift where everyone's just stopped hearing from God, so I'm kind of intrigued by that. So, The Great Shift by James L. Kugel. Okay, one more. I got another nonfiction here, little paperback I wanted to pick up. Because this is my city, and I'm really, my hometown, and I kind of want to see it do good, and I need to take this price tag off that it was on here. Okay. This is Detroit Resurrected, To Bankruptcy and Back by Nathan Bomey. And with a new epilogue, so it's been updated. But that's my city along the river there. Detroit River. Alright. At exactly 4:06 p.m. on July 18th, 2013, the city of Detroit filed for bankruptcy. A sure sign that the Motor City had hit rock bottom. How did the city get there, and how would it survive the perilous months that followed? Based on exclusive interviews, insider sources, and thousands of records, Detroit Resurrected tells the story of the politicians and citizens who ultimately set aside their differences to strike a grand bargain that would give this iconic city a second chance at life. A new epilogue for this paperback edition brings us up to date on how the city's residents and finances have fared in the years since the bankruptcy. I've seen a lot of news stories where a lot of young folks are going to Detroit because they can buy houses, real estate for dirt cheap, obviously. It could signal a turnaround. You know, if enough new people come in, new industries come in, you know, those barren lots and abandoned homes maybe can be raised, and lands that have just been reverted to farmland. They're not even. I mean, now they can maybe build again. I always will believe in Detroit. So, I picked that one up as well. All right. Where are we at? 28 minutes. Okay. So, I've heard of this book, and I want to read the original work that this was inspired by, which is Giuseppe Tomasi's The Leopard. And this is about the writer himself, I believe. This is Lampedusa by Stephen Price. I wanted to get the hardcover of this. There's many different editions going around, but I like this hardcover edition. These chandeliers, this portrait of this amazing royal courtroom. Is this focusing on there? There we go, Lampedusa. Okay. Let's see here. Set in a sun-drenched Sicily among its fading post-war aristocracy, Stephen Price's Lampedusa explores the final years of Giuseppe Tomasi, the last prince of Lampedusa, and as he struggles to complete his only novel, The Leopard. In 1955, Tomasi received a life-shattering diagnosis. Shortly after, he began work on a novel that would fail to be published before his death 2 years later. When The Leopard at last appeared, it won Italy's Strega Prize and earned recognition as one of the greatest novels of the century. Adhering closely to the facts of Tomasi's life, while venturing deep into his psyche, Lampedusa powerfully inhabits the complicated mind of a man facing his last days and struggling to leave behind something of lasting value while there is still time. In the tradition of Colm Toibin's The Master and Michael Cunningham's The Hours, it's a novel of acute emotional force about art and the life of one of the most celebrated modern writers. So I picked that up on the fiction end. Oh, and this one I should have mentioned earlier. So this is my last Yale University Press book here that I picked up from Hamilton. Looks like this is more of a biography or an autobiography. This is autobiography. Yes. And this is by Ben Hecht. Ben Hecht. Szukalski. There we go. Okay, and I'll tell you why I picked this up. This is A Child of the Century by Ben Hecht. He was big in Hollywood. Anyway, yeah, his autobiography. It's a veritable who's who of like artists and film, and I think Martine would like to look at this as well. Let me just read this. Let me read you a snippet here. Okay, so I'll read you from it has an introduction by David Denby. Okay. A Child of the Century is a great and strange American book, a garrulous text devoted to self-portraiture and to everything else. Literary and journalistic history, sexual anecdotes and reflections, the manners and morals of our forefathers, and all, a book as redolent of its time and place as laughter in a packed movie house or the sound of a cross-country express rushing through the night. Ben Hecht, journalist, novelist, controversialist, and surely the greatest of American screenwriters, finished A Child of the Century in 1954, near the end of his extraordinary career. The author of such plays and movies as Scarface, The Front Page, Nothing Sacred, and Notorious was broke. His novels were out of print and were unlikely to be revived. He was disgusted with Hollywood, which was enthralled to anti-communism, and which, in any case, had lost interest in him. He had been thinking of an autobiography for years. The book was his last claim on literary glory. So there's a really epic documentary, kind of a little bit strange, but really intriguing, on Netflix. And I think it's called, it always escapes my mind, but it's about the sculptor, the Polish sculptor, Szukalski. And apparently Ben Hecht knew him, and he kind of shared anecdotes about him, which were pulled into this documentary on Szukalski. And I kind of came to this book because I wanted to know more about Szukalski. So Szukalski, Stanislaw Szukalski, spelled Szukalski. If I can remember the name, I will put the name of the documentary down in the comments below. It was amazing. Some of the sculptures he made are amazing. A lot of them were destroyed in the war, World War II. So a damn shame. But anyway, so I picked this up kind of to get at some more info on Szukalski. Okay. And then I've heard about this writer, and I was intrigued, and I kind of want to check it out. I think she wrote a book on Heinrich Himmler or something. Not Himmler. Heydrich. Anyway, this is Civilizations, a novel by Laurent Binet. It's really nice Farrar, Straus, and Giroux hardcover. Okay. And Laurent is a man, so if I said she, I apologize. It says here, Freitas is the leader of a band of Viking warriors who get as far as Panama. Nobody knows what became of them. 500 years later, Christopher Columbus... I need a drink, sorry. That happens when I get a little too dry. 500 years later, Christopher Columbus is sailing for the Americas, dreaming of gold and conquest. Even after he is captured by the Tainos, his faith in his superiority and his mission is unshaken. 39 years after that, Atahualpa, the last Inca emperor, arrives in Europe. What does he find? The Spanish Inquisition, the Reformation, capitalism, the miracle of the printing press, endless warmongering between the ruling monarchies, and constant threat from the Turks. But most of all, downtrodden populations ready for revolution. Fortunately, he has a recent guidebook to acquiring power, Machiavelli's The Prince. Look at how this all comes together. It turns out he is very good at it, so the stage is set for a Europe ruled by Incas and for a great war that will change history forever. Civilizations is a wildly entertaining counterfactual novel from one of Europe's most exciting writers about the modern world, colonization, empire, and the eternal human conquest or quest for domination. Prepare for total domination. Yeah, and I kind of wanted to get introduced to his work. There's a couple of other of his fiction books I want to check out if I really like this one. So I picked up this one. The final two books I got, historical fiction. I think it's just these two. It's not a trilogy. It's just two books together by Minette Walters. Let's see here. Make sure I'm reading them in the right. Okay. So Minette Walters. It says set during the Black Death. So it's historical fiction, and I got it for beautiful hardcovers. This is The Last Hours. It says here, for most, the Black Death is the end. For a brave few, it heralds a new beginning. I'm trying to make sure I'm reading these in order. When the Black Death enters England through the port in Dorsetshire in June 1348, no one knows what manner of sickness it is, or how it spreads and kills so quickly. The Church cites God as the cause, and fear grips the people as they come to believe that the plague is a punishment for wickedness. But Lady Anne of Devilish has her own ideas. Educated by nuns, Anne is a rarity among women, being both literate and knowledgeable. With her brutal husband absent from the manor when news of this pestilence reaches her, she looks for more sensible ways to protect her people than daily confessions of sin. She decides to bring her serfs inside the safety of the moat that surrounds her manor house, then refuses entry to anyone else, even her husband. Good call, lady. Lady Anne makes an enemy of her daughter and her husband's steward by doing so, but her resolve is strengthened by the support of her leading serfs, until food stocks run low. The nerves of all are tested by continued confinement and ignorance of what is happening in the world outside. The people of Devilish are alive, but for how long? And what will they discover when the time comes for them to cross the moat again? Ooh, compelling and suspenseful, The Last Hours is a riveting tale of human ingenuity and endurance set against the worst pandemic in history. In Lady Anne of Devilish, leader, savior, heretic, Walters has created her most memorable heroine to date. And obviously, I have not read anything by Minette Walters, but she has apparently written a lot of books, as you can see here. So she continues the story with Lady Anne of Devilish, and I was also able to get the hardcover of the sequel, which is Minette Walters' The Turn of Midnight. I'm really excited. Yeah, this is the compelling, taut, and suspenseful conclusion to The Last Hours. So it says here, as the year 1349 approaches, the Black Death continues its devastating course across England. In Dorsetshire, the quarantined people of Devilish question whether they are the only survivors. Guided by their beloved young mistress, Lady Anne, they wait, knowing that when their dwindling stores are finally gone, they will have no choice but to leave. But where will they find safety in the desolate wasteland outside? One man has the courage to find out. Thaddeus Thurkell, A free-thinking, educated serf strikes out in search of supplies and news. A compelling leader, he and his companions quickly throw off the shackles of serfdom and set their minds to ensuring Devilish's future and freedom for its people. But what use is freedom that cannot be gained lawfully? When Lady Anne and Thaddeus conceive an audacious plan to secure her people's independence, neither foresees the life-threatening struggle over power, money, and religion that follows. So, yeah, a two-volume story on, the Black Death, mixed in with a little bit of freedom for the serfs and rah-rah, shish kumbah, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, all of this at the Hamilton book, and I love them. So there you have it, a 40-minute Hamilton book haul. And now I can start filling up more space that I've got here on my shelves. So let me know what you think about these books in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you soon again on the History Shelf. Bye, everybody.